Hello students, in this video tutorial we will discuss some basic aspects of the Python programming language, like how to represent data using literals and variables, and how to use operators to perform operations on the data, so that we are able to write beginner level small programs in Python. The approach is going to be such that we are going to focus on the logic of the programs rather than getting into details of the various constructs of the language, like how to frame the identifier names, or how to write real numbers, or how what are the various options to use the print function. We won't get into these technical details too much, but we will only see them as much as we need to write small programs. So we want to focus on the logic of the uh, programs rather than getting into the details of the language. Let us briefly discuss what is a program and what does it do. See, we all of us use computers almost on a daily basis in our lives. We do various activities with computers, like creating documents or spreadsheets, or visiting websites for collecting information, or registering ourselves on various portals like college admission portals, or we book tickets for trains and aeroplanes, and we play music and video files for entertainment, and so on. Actually, there are many numerous different types of possibilities of work which are done on a computer. Now, how is it possible that although computer is a single set of hardware, how is it able to do so many different types of activities? The answer is that it is made possible by different programs that run on a computer. Every activity that a computer performs is made possible by a different program. Okay, everything you can do on a computer is because of some program. So, what is a program? A program is basically a collection of instructions for a computer to carry out. Okay, and different for a different activity you need some different instructions. For example, the web browser softwares like Microsoft Internet Explorer, or Mozilla Firefox, or Google Chrome, these are web browsers. These programs will have different instructions in them than the document editor programs like Word and Google Docs. Okay, and yet another category of media player softwares or programs will have still different instructions in them. So different activity requires different instructions in the program. Okay, so now when we say a program is a collection of instructions, the first question arises: how do we give these instructions to the computer? Can we use human languages like Hindi, English, etc., which we use in our daily life for communication with other human beings? The answer is no, because computers are not as smart as we humans are. See, human languages are ambiguous in nature. That means one sentence can have multiple meanings, and the same meaning can be conveyed in multiple different sentences. For example, we may just say open the door, or we may say please open the door, or we may say will you please open the door. See, the same meaning can be conveyed in entirely different words. Okay, and similarly there may be situations when the same words may convey different meanings also. So that is to say that human languages are ambiguous in nature, and computers are not as smart as humans to exactly understand what human languages means. Okay, therefore some technical languages have been created which are not ambiguous. That means for any meaning you have exactly one sentence or one phrase of words only in those technical languages, which the computer can easily understand. Okay, Examples of such technical languages are Python, C, C++, Java, etc. Now we said that a program is a collection of instructions. Now what do these instructions exactly do? So typically an instruction processes some data. Remember these two words, process and data. Some data is processed by every instruction. Now what do we mean by data then? A data is a very general term. It may include the an image or an audio file or a video file or any message or any string. Actually, the term data is a very general term. Any file on your computer, whether it be an image or a video file or whatever, it is data. But at this level of our consideration of Python program, when we want only to write a small beginner level programs, we consider only two types of data. The first one is numerical data, and the second one is the textual or string type data. Okay, the numbers and strings, that is all when we mean by data at this time. Now numbers are used to represent quantities like marks of students or weight of a person or distance between two places or rate of interest or principal amount for commercial applications and so on. All these data are numerical in nature. Similarly, strings type data or say textual data is used to represent names of peoples or places or addresses or or it may be a comment like we saw in social media applications, the comments. Now actually any textual information is comes under the category of strings. Now that having said about data, the next thing we ask is what do we mean by processing. Now for numbers, the processing means we can add the numbers or we can multiply them or divide one number by another or subtract one from another, or we may raise one number to a power of another. So all these are examples of numerical processing. And we may also compare some numbers from one another and see which one is greater and which one is smaller, whether the two numbers are equal or not. All these are the possibilities of processing with numbers. And as for strings, we may do activities like finding the length of the string or joining two strings to form a bigger string, or we may wanted to split a long string into smaller parts and so on. These are the possibilities of processing with the strings type data. To further clarify what do we mean by data and by processing, we take three examples of three programs. The first program, suppose we are writing to calculate a simple interest. Now what data will this program be handling? This program will handle numerical data, which is a principal amount and the rate of interest and the time period for which the interest is to be calculated. Okay, and what processing will be done with this data? That is to say, we will multiply the principal amount, the rate of interest and the time, and divide that result by 100 to obtain the simple interest. Now another program may be uh, to find a maximum from a list of numbers. What data will be processed by this program? Obviously the list of numbers is the data for this program. And what kind of processing will be done in this program? We will be comparing the numbers with each other somehow, so that we are able to determine which one is the maximum. As a third example, let's consider that we have to create a string from the first 5 characters of a longer string. Now what is the data for this program? The data is the longer string, the original string which we want to use to create a new string with its first 5 characters. And what processing do we want to use on this data, we want to extract the first 5 characters of this data. So the processing is the extraction of a few characters from a string. Now, before we see our first example program, we must understand how to write numbers and strings in our programs in Python. See, we said that Python is a technical language, and everything which we write in Python has to be done according to some certain rules which govern how to write that part of the program. So we have certain rules which govern how we will write numbers, or how we will write the strings in our programs. Now, we will not get into details of all those rules. That is not required for writing small programs. We just see how can we write a simple, commonly, frequently used numbers and strings. Okay, as for writing integer numbers, we just write them using the digits 0 to 9, and possibly there may be a hyphen preceding the digits, which represent the negative numbers. Okay, and for real numbers which have some fractional part after the decimal point, we use the decimal point, the dot also in the number, and to separate the integer part and the fractional part of the real number. And again, we may use a optional hyphen to make negative numbers. Some examples: 25 minus 45.50 and 325 are written here. Now, as for strings, how do we write strings? See, what is a string in the first place? A string is a sequence of characters which may include alphabets A to Z in a smaller or capital case, or it may include 0 to 9 digits, or it may include special characters like star, hash, at the rate, exclamation mark, and so on. Actually, any character available on your keyboard which you can type, even the blank space or a new line character, all these may be a part of a string. Now, how to create a string in a Python program? For this, you must remember that you have to include all the characters in the string inside single, double, or triple quotes. That is the technical rule, the syntactic rule of Python that governs how do you create a string in your program. So remember to enclose all the characters in your string inside single or double or triple quotes. An example is shown here, in which there are alphabets apple of the word apple, the digits 1, 2, 3, and special characters star, hash, and at the rate, which comprise a string, and all these characters are enclosed inside single quotes as required syntactically. Okay, so that is all you need to know for writing small programs in Python. Now we come to our first example program. This program is written to calculate a simple interest for 3 years on a principal amount of rupees 65,000 with the rate of interest of 10% per year. The program is shown in the right half of the screen. Now we can't understand everything in the program straight away, so let us discuss the parts of this program piece by piece, one after another. First of all, as we said, every program generally processes some data. So the data in this program is the principal amount, the rate of interest, and the time period for which the interest is to be calculated. Now, to handle these data, we are using 3 variables, which are PR, ROI, and time. Okay, you can see these 3 words in your program: PR, ROI, ROI, and time. Actually, these three words represent the three variables of your program. Now, what is a variable? See, the variable is a very important construct in any programming language. It is the primary tool through which you handle your data. Now, exactly what is a variable? The variable is the variable represents some bytes in your memory in which the data is kept. See, all the data of your programs are kept in RAM, or the primary memory of the computer. Okay, and some bytes are needed to represent every piece of data. So a variable represents some bytes of data. Okay, and a variable also has a name, or it is called identifier also. And through this name you address these bytes in your program. Okay, so in this case we are using the names PR, which stands for principal, ROI, which stands for rate of interest, and time, which is simply time. Now, these three variables are used to store the principal amount, which is 65,000, rate of interest, which is 3% per year, and 10% per year, and time, which is 3 years. Okay, in the fourth line of the program we can see another variable created, which is I. This variable is created to store the interest which will be calculated in this variable. Now you should also notice the use of the equal to symbol in this program. Every variable is getting its value from the equal to symbol. Okay, as you can see, PR equal to 65,000. This is the first line of your program. Now what is happening here, that equal to symbol, as we use it in mathematics, represents equality of two quantities, but in Python programming language, equal to symbol has a special role. It is called assignment operator in Python. What it does is it assigns a value which is appearing on its right hand side to the variable whose identifier is appearing on the left hand side of the equal to symbol. Okay, so the job of the equal to symbol or the assignment operator is to assign some value to a variable. Okay, so the value 65,000 is being assigned to the variable PR, value 10 is being assigned to the variable ROI, and the value 3 is being assigned to the variable time. Now there are some more points which we must remember about variables and identifiers. First of all, the question arises, who decides the names of the variables? The answer is you yourself as a programmer are at complete freedom to decide the name of your identifiers. Okay. Now the rule of thumb is to use just a single word names for identifiers of your variables, which should be indicative of the data that will be stored in them. Okay, for example, we used PR, which stands for principal amount, which indicates that this variable will be used to store the principal amount. ROI, the variable name ROI indicates that it will be used to store the rate of interest. Now the next thing you have to understand is that we said you should use a single word name as far as possible. Now the spelling does not matter. Okay, this makes it convenient for you, because you don't have to write exact English spelling of the word you are using. Just like we used PR only, we didn't write the full spelling of principal. Okay, this is completely valid in Python. You can use even a single letter as your identifier of your variable. Then If in some programming situation you must use two or more words for a variable name, there may be such situations, then you should use actually you have to use the underscore symbol instead of the blank space which we normally use on paper when we write two or more words to separate them. Okay, so the example is shown for that suppose you have to represent the marks of a student named Amit. Now you want to include Amit and marks both in the variable name. Now how do you are trying to use two words, so in this case you have to write Amit underscore marks. That will be a valid identifier, but if you write Amit space marks, then it will be wrong. It won't be understood as a single identifier. Okay, so remember that whenever you have to use two or more words for the identifier of a variable, you must use the underscore symbol to separate the words. Some examples of variable names are shown in the right half. For say when you have to represent marks in your program, then you can write the variable name marks or just M. There may be a situation when you want to represent the speed of some vehicle in your program, then you can use the variable name speed or just S or SPD, anything you like. Now as a general practice, single word variable names like A, B, C, X, Y, Z, etc. are used to represent random numbers in your program. See, you will see such situations in which you need some variables to store extra numbers than the original data of your program. In that case, it is a general practice to use single word names. Although it is not necessary, you can use any type of identifier for any type of number. Now continuing our discussion on variables, the next thing you should understand is that variables can be updated. That means the value stored in a variable can be changed. See, it is very important to understand that values in a variable are changed, can be changed, and they are changed very frequently in your programs. Now two examples are shown here. In the first, a variable by name X is created in which the value 10 is being placed, and in the next line we are placing the value 15 in the same variable X. That means first we placed value 10 and then we placed value 15, overwriting the old value 10. Okay, so this way this example shows that it is completely valid to replace an old value with a new value in a variable. Now another common situation which you will see in many programs is that the current value of a variable is used to compute its new value. Okay, the second example shows this. First we are creating a variable by name M and putting value 5 in it, and then in the next line we are adding 1 to the current value of M. See, in the right hand side of the equal to symbol, the assignment operator, we have written M plus 1. This means the M means the current value of M, which is 5. Now 1 is added to 5, that means we get 6. Now assignment operator places this new value 6 into the variable M only. Okay, so the old value of variable M5 is replaced by new value 6. So okay, the next important elements of this program are the literal values. See, we have written 65,000, 10 and 3 and 100, these values directly in our program using the digits, the digital representation. Okay, these numbers which are written directly are called literal values because they represent values literally. Okay. So these are numeric literal values, and we'll further in our next examples we'll see string literals also, in which textual data will be written literally. Now these literal values may be called free data, by which we just mean that this data is not stored in any kind of variable, they are just written freely in your program. Next thing we consider about this program is the operations. We can see that we have used the multiplication and the division operators in this program. In the line 4, where we have multiplied the variables PR, ROI and time. Okay, that means we have multiplied the values which are stored in these variables, and then the result is divided by the value 100. So star represents multiplication operator in Python. Okay, as we said earlier, the operator means a particular symbol in a programming language which causes some action to happen. So the star symbol, the multiplication operator in Python, causes the multiplication to happen. Similarly, the slash symbol represents the division operator of Python. There are many more operators also in Python, like plus is used for addition, minus hyphen is used for subtraction, and so on. We'll just see a few more operators shortly. Now the next operator we can consider is the double star operator. Okay, so this represents the exponentiation operator. Okay, as in the example shown in the fourth line, x is equal to x double star 2. What happens here is that value of x, which is 10, as we can see in the first line, x is equal to 10, value 10 is stored in the variable x, and in the fourth line we write on the right hand side of the assignment operator x double star 2. So the double star symbol represents the exponentiation operator, and it works as follows. The value of x, which is 10, is raised to power 2. Okay, so 10 raised to power 2 gives us 100. So this 100 value, where is this going? This is going in the variable x only. Okay, that means the present value of x, which is 10, is being replaced by the outcome of the exponentiation of 10 being raised to power 2. Further, we have two more operators which are important. First one is the represented by the percentage symbol. It is called modulus or remainder operator, and the second one is the floor division operator, which is represented by two front slashes. Now the work of modulus operator is as follows. It divides one number by another, but instead of giving the result in the fractional, the true real number, which is the result of the division, what it does is that it gives the highest integer which is less than or equal to the result of the division. As an example, we have written 10 floor division 3. In the first line, z is equal to 10 floor division 3. So what happens here, the division is performed, 10 is divided by 3, and the result is 3.33, or that we know. Now but the floor division operator does not return 3.33. okay, what it does is it returns the highest integer which is less than this value. Now we know that 3 is the highest integer which is just less than this value 3.33. so the floor division operator returns this value 3, and z gets the value 3. In the next example, m is equal to minus 10 floor division 3. Again the value 10 is divided by 3, and we get the result of the division as negative 3.33, because this time we are dividing minus 10 by 3, so we get the result minus 3.33. Now again we have to look for the highest integer which is less than or equal to this result of the division. Now minus 3.33 is less than is just greater than minus 4 instead of minus 3. See, minus 3 is actually greater than minus 3.33, and the floor division operator returns the integer which is immediately less than or equal to the result of the division. So in this case it is minus 4 which is immediately less than minus 3.33, so m gets the value minus 4. So be careful when you are dealing with negative numbers with floor division. The result may be a little surprising. Now as for the modulus operator, we get the remainder after the division as the result. For example, in the last third line we have written z is equal to 55 percentage symbol 15. Now the remainder operator is returns the value which remains after division. So when we divide 55 by 15, we get 10 as the remainder. So this 10 is the outcome of this modulus or remainder operator. So z gets the value 10. Now we look at the next part of our program. Okay, the next part which has to be discussed is the representation of the output, on the representation of the calculations which you have done in your program, output of the processing of your program. Now how do we present the calculations which have been done by your program to the user of the program? Okay, so for this we have a very important function of Python, the print function. Now notice that we have written in our program print I, as here print I. So what this does is the whatever value is stored in the variable I stands for interest, it is printed on the monitor. Okay, so remember what the print function does, it just prints the value of any data item it is given on the monitor. Okay, now these the pair of parentheses which are written after the print function, inside which I was written, is mandatory to be written. Okay, so it is a technical requirement, or say the syntactic requirement of writing any function in Python, that you must use the pair of parentheses. Now you should understand the role of parentheses here. We write the word print followed by a pair of parentheses, and inside the parentheses we write any data item or value which we want to be printed on the monitor. As in our program we wrote I inside the parentheses, and the value of the variable I was printed on the monitor. More examples are shown on the right half of the screen. In the first we have written print hello world inside quotes. So look carefully that inside the parentheses we have a string hello world, and this string is enclosed inside a pair of single quotes. Now as we said earlier, anything enclosed inside a pair of single quotes or double or triple quotes represents a string. So what is happening here, that a string is created with the words hello and world followed by 3 exclamation marks, and this string is being given to the print function for printing. That means we are asking the print function to print this string hello world on the monitor. Okay, so whatever data which we want the print function to print on the monitor, we write that data inside the pair of parentheses of the print function. Okay, so actually any data which is given to a function for some task, these are called arguments, which we will discuss later. Okay, so just understand for now that whatever values you want the print function to print for you on the monitor, you just write those values inside the pair of parentheses after the print word. Now another thing you should know about the print function is that you may provide more than one values to the print function for printing. As in the second example, we have written print inside parenthesis 25 comma 51. So what this means is that we are asking the print function to print two values 25 and 51 on the monitor. Okay, now note carefully here the use of the comma. When we provide multiple values to the print function for processing, we separate those multiple values using commas. Okay. So a single print function call may be used to print multiple values on the monitor. Now the output of these two statements on monitor will be, first print statement will just print the string hello world on the monitor, and the second print statement will print two numbers 25 and 51 on the monitor. Now we have been using this word function. We have been saying print function. What is a function in Python? For now you should you need only to understand that a program a function is a program in itself. It is a short program in itself. It performs a specific task, and for example, the print function is performing the task of printing something on your monitor. Okay, so any function performs a specific task, and a function may be used by any program. Once it is written, it may be used by any program. So it is not necessary that only a single task is done by a function, but typically the functions do one specific task only. Thank you.